Hey class, this is lesson 7.4, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. So in today's lesson, this is going to be pretty similar to what we did in lesson 3. The big difference though this time is that we have a coefficient in front of our x squared. So if you remember in lesson 3, we would be able to start with x in our first position when we are factoring, and then just find our remaining numbers that are factors of our c value that add to give us b. Now because we have this coefficient in front of our a value, that's going to switch up what we do a little bit, because now we need to take the factors of a into consideration and multiply those with our factors of c before we can add to give them our b value. So let me show you what I mean with some examples here. So the way we're going to do this is start with our factors of our a value. So in this case it's 2. So factors of 2 would be 1 times 2. Okay, then my factors of 21, this is just like last lesson. My factors of 21 then would be 1 and 21 and 3 and 7. Now where it's going to get a little bit different is we are going to need to find what combination of outer and inner terms, when we multiply them, will they then add together to get me to 17. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of guessing and checking. So I'm going to start by taking 1 times 3, that gets me 3, and then if I do the other pair together, take 2 times 7, that gets me 14. Well, 14 plus 3 gets me to that 17, so that is the combination that works. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying one of these factors times one of these, and then from the same pair, I'm going to multiply the other ones, and then I add them together at the end. So these are the ones that work, so I'm going to go ahead and circle those. And then what I am going to do over here is I'm going to line them up with their partner that worked. So I took 1 times 3, and I took 2 times 7. And then when I go to put that down, this top one is going to be my outer terms. So I've got 1 and 3, my outside terms, and then my inner terms are going to be 2 and 7. Now, the only thing you got to be careful of is you want 1 and 2, since those are your factors of 2, I want those to be in these first positions inside my binomials. So I want 1 here and 2 here, so that means 7 needs to go here. A lot of times kids will get those switched up, so make sure you just keep those straight. Now, we can always check with FOIL, so we should always be able to tell if we did it right or not, especially as you're first getting the hang of this, because it does take a little bit of getting used to. So if I FOIL this out, I'm going to have x times 2x squared. Okay, my outside terms, x times 3 gets me 3x. My inner terms gets me a 14x. And then my my last term, 7 times 3, gets me to 21. And then if I add this together, I'll wind up with 2x squared plus 17x plus 21, which is exactly what I started with in my original problem. So that is how I can check to know I did it right. Okay, let's try another example here. Now this one they're going to try to confuse you a little bit because we want our terms this time to add to equal negative 16. Now we're still going to list our factors of 3 to start with, just 1 and 3. Now we're going to list our factors of 16, but remember we want them to add to give negative 16, so we are going to make these factors all negative. So I'm going to have negative 16 and negative 1 and negative 4 and negative 4. Okay, again, I'm going to use a little guessing and checking to figure out what combination can I multiply and then add together to get me my negative 16. Now, there's only one option from over here, so we obviously have to go with 1 times 3. We just got to pick which combination in our second column it's going to work with then. So for example, maybe I'm going to pick 1 times negative 4. That gives me negative 4. And if I multiply their partners, 3 times negative 4 gets me negative 12. Well, negative 4 plus negative 12 gets me to my negative 16. So over here then I'm going to list their partners. I took 1 times negative 4, and I took 3 times negative 4. Okay, and then I want to remember that I want to keep 1 and 3 in those first positions. So I've got a 1x and a 3x, and then my outside terms are going to be 1 and -4, so my -4 goes here. My inside terms are going to be 3 and -4. Okay, and then of course you can check using FOIL. Try these next two on your own and see how you do. You can always check it with my answer key on my website. Okay, the next type of problem I'm going to show you how to do is if we have a negative c value. That's really not going to change our process at all though. We're still going to do our factors of 3. Here we're going to do our factors of -4, and then we're going to need to do our outer and inner terms to see what combination works. So my factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. My factors of -4 would be -1 and +4, -4 and +1, and -2 and +2. My only option to choose over here is going to be 1 and 3, so let's see what's going to match up with it. So remember, I'm trying to get to a +11. So maybe I want to do, let's start with this one maybe, do 3 times 4 to get me 12. And if I do 1 times -1, that gets me a -1. Well, 12 plus -1 gets me a +11. So let's list them out with their partners over here then. So I had 1 times -1 and 3 times 4. Okay, I want to make sure that my factors of 3 go first. So when I go to write out my binomial then, I need to make sure my 1x and my 3x are first. Okay, and then my outside terms are going to be 1 and -1. So here's my 1, here's my -1 on the outer then. And then my inside terms are 3 and +4. So here's what my final answer would look like then. Okay, I want you to try this one on your own. And then I'm going to do one more with you here. We'll try this bottom one here. Okay, this next one I'm going to do my factors of 4, and then here I'm going to do my factors of -4. So my factors of 4 would be 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Factors of -4 are the same as I just listed up above on the last problem. So -1 and 4, -4 and 1, -1 and 4, and -2 and 2. Now this one's a little bit different because we have 2 options to choose from over here. So we've got to just kind of go through all of the different combinations to see what's going to work. Okay, so let's say I just start with my first one here. 4 times -4 gets me -16. Well, 1 times 1 is 1. -16 plus a +1 gets me to -15. So on my outer and inner, I'm going to list them with their partners. So I took 4 times -4 and 1 times 1. I want to make sure that my factors of 4 go first in my binomial. So if I write that out, I should have 4x and 1x, or just x. And then my outside terms should be 4 and -4. So 4 and then -4 on the outside, 1 and +1 on the inside here. Okay, so there's my final answer for that one. Try this one on your own. Okay, and then I think I'll just do one of these with you, and I'll let you finish up the rest of them on your own. So the last one we're going to do is when everything is negative. Again, that doesn't change our process at all though. We're still going to do our factors of -2, and then we're going to do our factors of -3. And remember that our outer and inner goal is to have them add to equal -5. So my factors of -2 would be -1 and +2, and -2 and +1. Factors of -3 would be -1 times 3 and -3 times 1. Okay, and then I'm going to go through my different combos to see what would work. And I can see that -1 times 3 gets me a -3, and a +2 times a -1 gets me a -2, so -3 plus negative 2 gets me my negative 5. So I'm going to list the combos over here. So I took negative 1 times 3, and I took 2 times negative 1, remembering that I want to keep my factors of negative 2 first. So these guys need to go first in each binomial. So if I write that out, I'm going to have negative 1x here and 2x here. My outside terms are negative 1 and 3, so here's my negative 1. Here's where my 3 needs to go. And then my inside terms would be 2x and negative 1. So there should be my final answer then. Okay, so go ahead and try these last 3 problems on your own and see how you do. Don't get discouraged. These take a little bit of time, and sometimes it can be a little frustrating because sometimes you just have to go through a lot of combinations until you find the one you're looking for. So stick with it. You can do it. Just keep with the process and you'll get really fast at it before you know it. So good luck, and make sure you check your answers with the answer key when you are done.